Hello? Hello, 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 hello. Yours truly, John Beattie. I've clicked away the ads. Dinosaur News, April 29th, 2014. Brought to you by the British People's League. Produced by the British People's League. How are you today? Just started to rain a bit here. It'll help me get rid of some of the dog's mess out in their pen. They're outside during the day and inside at night. I'm sure you're very interested in that, but, well, British have always loved their pets, haven't they? Especially dogs and cats. So, the scoop today. This is going to be the shortest YouTube dinosaur news ever done, and not due to laziness, not due to things going on in the world, but I would like you to retain the short message, which to me is truly ironic. The greatest advance plug the British People's League has had, if not ever, and yet the plug some photos, etc., on the website in advance of a radio interview tomorrow, April 30th, all being produced by a National Socialist. I'm hesitating. I'm speechless. Most National Socialists are pissed off that yours truly is not one of them. This guy, Paul Hickman, is a courteous British gentleman from the old school. Yet he's in his 30s. So those of you who clicked in yesterday will have had some notice of it. But why I'm very excited today, Paul has put promo for the show tomorrow on the Renegade Broadcasting website, and then the subheading is under Voice of Albion, which is what Paul calls his broadcast, Voice of Albion, Paul Hickman. So to get these photo promos, they're just great. I mean, you couldn't pay for this kind of advertising. And that's the kind of white unity that I'm flabbergasted to have a National Socialist treating me with such respect in advance of the show. So the interview, the big interview, and it's going to be hot for me, very hot. He has advanced me the questions. I read some of them out on yesterday's preamble on the YouTube yesterday, April 28th. But they're hot and piercing questions. Even when the Zionists were trying to make sense as to how I was shocking their communities, they never asked such piercing questions. The Winnipeg Jewish gal that wrote a story up on how no Nazi party ever existed connected with Beattie boy, it was all a fraud. And her story was reproduced in the Jerusalem Post about 3-4 years ago. If you click in Jerusalem Post and then do a sub-search once their page come up in their search on their page, you click in John Beattie and up will come the story. And then the general picture, again repeating, John Beattie whitewash. Just click in John Beattie whitewash. I mean, it is a big fraud. Hard-working Jews out there, and then they see their own Canadian Jewish Congress creating a Nazi party to scare Jews and Canadians into passing a hate law. So much to their credit, the Winnipeg Jewish paper and the Jerusalem Post reproduced the story, and it was shortly after that the Canadian Jewish Congress had to fold, quit, kaput. They'd been killed. The Canadian Jewish Congress was killed by John Beattie, and I'm proud of it. Does that sound anti-Semitic? I don't think so. I've said the lady with the Winnipeg Jewish paper was kind enough to do so. It's a fact. It was a fraud. And that's all going to come up tomorrow afternoon, Canadian time, 4 p.m. Ontario, Canada Eastern time, probably 9 o'clock in the motherland, and you have to check your time clocks to see what it would be on the west coast of Canada and the USA. But I've got to hand it to Paul Hickman, the host. His questions are dynamite, and they're making me squirm. It's going to be very hard to answer these questions. But I will do so forthright, and I believe I can handle the situation. It's like climbing out of a cesspool and having a quick shower. And as I say, Paul is currently displaying great historical photos of British-Canadian connection to Britannic motherland Britain. So when you get into the page for the advance promo for the show that's listed right now, you'll see different photos pop up, and I'm pleased with the photos he chose of yours truly. Political action in the past. One was shot with me addressing a crowd of 4,000 people, and no one is raising a hand. Well, mind you, there were a few uniformed cops spread throughout. That particular speech was given the very weekend the Interpol and the works were all looking for James Earl Ray, because they had heard that the killer of Martin Luther King was hiding out in Toronto. And to this day, I'm just shocked that they had police officers on the top of a hotel next to this big park that I chose as my platform. Snipers. Police snipers on top of the rooftop. What, they think James Earl Ray was going to bump me off as well? In any case, I'm very pleased with that photo, and a couple others. It's all part of whitewashing, folks, in advance of the municipal election coming up, when I'll be running for the position of Deputy Reeve. But the cooperation astounds me from Paul Hickman, a known National Socialist, giving me free rein to speak on behalf of the British People's League. I've never had such a promotion by someone who's at variance with our belief system. As I say, they're the most piercing questions I've ever had. So I'll just go slow here. The show is on tomorrow, Wednesday, April 30th, starting at 4 p.m. Ontario time, Eastern Time, Canada. You click into Renegade Broadcasting. Google Renegade, just as you Renegade, R-E-N-E-G-A-D-E, Renegade Broadcasting. When that comes up, you'll see Paul at the top with the hosts are listed. You'll see Paul. And just click on there. There's two ways it comes in. One may not come in with all the hosts listed at the top. It may come directly to the show, starting at 4 o'clock. And if you want to see the advanced promo that I'm nudging you towards right now, you find Voice of Albion, Renegade Broadcasting, Voice of Albion, Paul Hickman. I've waited for this day for a long time, decades. The direct questioning, everything is there, that I've never had to face. It's all so incredible and convoluted, my youth. It's unbelievable. I still don't believe it. Now, many have heard me talk about a book I'm writing. The fact is, I won't be referring to anything in the book before 1975. The book is being written about Canada's secret civil war from 1978 onwards. There'll be no reference in my personal life or how I was used for political purposes earlier on. Now, during Canada's secret civil war, I may be used by some who thought, well, we'll get rid of Beattie when he's no longer useful. But there were other patriots within the administrative attempt takeover of Canada. Administrator, remember the lesson, folks? Administrator in Canada's Constitution was our cover. As I say, perhaps I was being used then too, and I have no doubt that it was, but there were enough people that were genuinely sincere with yours truly and my passed away wife Hazel that I didn't really have a fear then. But there will be no reference in the book to my early youthful wanderings. And those early youthful wanderings, surrounded by all kinds, including Art Eggleton, the former mayor of Toronto, now a senator, who's had a little bit of scandal with hiring girlfriends. Why would he be walking into a social credit hall when the Canadian Jewish Congress had their agents suddenly surround me? So there's a lot of people who are going to squirm with the show that comes up tomorrow afternoon. And there will be a lot of what I call nationalist types who will not be pleased to hear the story how the Nazi Party described in Wikipedia as a complete fraud. There's a few decent types, I suppose. They've got their belief in National Socialism. They're going to be disgusted that I never was a National Socialist, never will be a National Socialist. Now, how am I going to explain all that tomorrow? I'll do it. And then there are patriots connected with the British People's League who will be pleased to hear it all reiterated, the whitewashing. There's a lot of our friends on the blind list have tried to get people to support the British People's League, but they weren't convinced by the whitewashing video, so perhaps tomorrow afternoon's show will clarify everything. So really, I want to leave you with that today. I will be speaking on behalf of the British People's League tomorrow afternoon. So I really want to have this on your mind. And that's why we're going to cut the show short today. I believe, just thinking right now, I believe I will not do a YouTube tomorrow because of the interview. And I would rather the next YouTube that I do, which will be May the 1st, Thursday, May Day, I will do a wrap-up as to how I felt the interview went. And I'll be frank with you. If I screw up, I'll be the first to admit it. I think that's exactly what we'll do. So the next YouTube will be the Dinosaur News, May the 1st. A wrap-up as to thoughts on the interview. Okay, so that's the way it is for today, folks. So I really hope you'll tune in tomorrow afternoon and start laying your bets on how Beattie will do. I'm confident I'll do an okay job.